morning, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of GAKidsTV. Today, we're going to talk about what is a leaf. Yesterday, we did all about roots, all under the ground, what roots do, why they're so important, and what they bring to why a plant lives, what they bring to that. Today, we're going to discuss leaves. So very, very simply, we all, I think, know what a leaf is. Everybody has seen them. The leaf is simply an above ground organ on a plant to allow the plant to get energy and to breathe. Pretty much what a leaf does. There are other things. A lot of us find them very pretty. I think we all know that we've got a nice big leaf on the Canadian flag. But for the actual life cycle of the tree, the two main purposes of the leaf are to take life in and to breathe. So we're going to look at that. We're going to say, what are some of the types of leaf? So a leaf that a lot of you have seen, but not everybody knows is a leaf. How many of you put up a tree at Christmas? You got your pine tree or your spruce tree. Any of those evergreen trees, those tiny needles are a leaf. Here's a bonsai. This is a juniper. A lot of people have junipers in Calgary, and every one of those tiny sharp needles is a leaf. So that's a type of leaf. Another one that I think we've all seen, that we're all familiar with, is your typical, I'm going to draw an oak leaf, is your typical broadleaf. These run the gamut of everything. The leaf on our flag is a broadleaf. The oak is a broadleaf. Even your indoor plants, this is considered a broadleaf, as is this one. Very different in the way they grow, but again, it's an above ground plant organ, and these are the broadleaf. Another common one that we see is called a frond. Now they're primarily on ferns, and a frond comes up like this. And a good example of that, I'm going to bring out a fern, I'm going to bring out two ferns. And you can see each one of these is a frond, and those are the leaves on them. So those are your three basic type of leaves, but the interesting thing is regardless if it's a big broadleaf like this, if it's a frond, or if it's one of our tiny, tiny, sharp little needles, they all do the same purpose for the plant. And that is to create energy and to breathe. So, how do leaves make energy? How do leaves get energy into the plant? So, we start here. And there's our sun. He's missing a couple of things. There we go. I don't know about you guys, by the way, but it's not a very nice day in Calgary. It was minus 23 this morning. Kind of snowy, very cold. We could use the sun, but we know it's coming. So we've got a sun. Now, underneath our sun, we've got a nice big green tree. And he's growing right there. So what happens is the rays from the sun, the light from the sun come down and they hit the leaf. And the leaf's sitting there and it's out there and it's just absorbing in that sunlight. Now a lot of times, what again you'll notice, I'm going to bring some of my plants back out, is you'll notice all of these leaves are quite thin. Whether they're a frond, a needle, or a broadleaf, they're all rather thin. The reason for that is each leaf is made up of millions of cells. Remember the other day we spoke about cells? And each one of those cells, remember they have the cell wall, has an element in it called chlorophyll. Now chlorophyll is predominantly a green pigment in it. And what that does is it takes the sunlight and it converts that sunlight into energy. So what you end up having is, we have our sun, he's hitting the tree, the leaves are now taking all of that. The chlorophyll in the leaf is producing it, And then it goes down into our root system that we talked about yesterday. And the roots are getting all of that energy. Then, as we remember from yesterday, the roots grow down, they drink up the water and they get the minerals from in the ground. They send that back up the tree to the leaves. So now the roots are sending up the water and the minerals up into there. And what does that do? Gives us more leaves. More leaves, more photosynthesis, and the cycle continues. And that's how plants grow, just like us. They need energy to grow, and that's how they are converting their energy. So I know it's a bit of a tricky word. We're going to write it out. This is called photosynthesis. Photo, meaning light, right there. So the photo part is the light from the sun. And synthesis, I can't believe I've got to write this. My spelling is almost as bad as my drawing, so bear with me. And synthesis, which means cutting together. So you take photosynthesis, which is light putting together. And the plant takes light, puts it together into its cells, into the chlorophyll, to make energy, photosynthesis. So that is the primary function of the leaves. Now the second one that we discussed was breathing. Now, we've all seen plants. Again, I'm just going to grab one of my handy dandy plants here. So we've got the leaf, it's on top. We know even now there's light coming through the clouds, hitting it, and it's getting energy, and that energy is going down into these roots. Even as we speak, that process is happening. But just like we can't see when we're growing up, we can't watch a plant growing up. We know it gets bigger, but it's tough to see. So this whole thing is happening right now as it goes. And this plant, he's probably pretty happy I'm using him, and he's probably pretty proud of himself. I'm in nice and close, and we're talking about him, and he's undergoing, as we're talking, he's undergoing that. But as we look at him, we don't see any chest, we don't see any lungs, we don't see any heart or anything like that in a plant. So how do plants breathe? We know how we breathe, it's really easy. Big breath of oxygen, lots of carbon dioxide coming out. Funnily enough, I'm getting the oxygen I need from the plant, and now I'm breathing carbon dioxide into them. So, the plant doesn't breathe like us. It's more of a transfer of the gases. So what we're going to draw, we're going to draw a leaf. And you know what? I like this guy, so we're going to try and draw one of his leaves. Bear with me. So, it comes up, and then it kind of goes like that. And then he's got some squiggles on him. That's good enough. That's a pretty good portrait of our little plant here. So on each leaf, and again, even these tiny needles have what I'm about to discuss here. What they have, it's called stomata, which sounds like something you don't want to have, but leaves do want it. And what stomata is they are tiny, tiny, tiny little holes all over the leaf. Now these are so small, you can't see them. Doesn't matter how close you look, you're never gonna see them. They are there, but to give you an idea of how small they are, to give you an idea of how many there are, in an area the size of my thumb tip on a plant. So let's give you a comparison here. On that much of that leaf surface, there are 200,000 stomata. And what the stomata does is, as the plant is going through its energy cycle, so we just learned about the photosynthesis, so we'll draw sun again, and the light is hitting the plant, right there. It's hitting the green, the chlorophyll, and it's converting it to energy. So now it's converting it to energy, and all of that is running backwards and forwards. Well, when there's energy, there's gas. So what this plant is doing is it needs gas to go. So again, I've got them in me. As I'm talking, I'm exhaling carbon dioxide. This plant is literally exchanging that gas as we speak through the stomata. So as well as the light coming in, now we have carbon dioxide going in. And then, I knew I should have dumped all my pens on the counter. What we have is all of this tomato here. Well, what's that giving us? That is coming out as oxygen. So all of this is happening at the same time through the leaf. So this leaf, it looks pretty. It's a great leaf, and we find a lot of enjoyment in it through the small needles here, through our firm fronds here. We think they're very pretty, but they form a much, much, much bigger purpose for the plant than just how it looks. What they end up doing, and each one is very specifically designed, and we're going to go into that in another subject. So that sums up our leaves. But you know what? There's a question, and I get asked all the time this question from everybody, from kids and adults alike, and it's the number one question we get about leaves, and that's why do leaves fall? And there's all kinds of reasons, and I don't know, maybe you guys have got some guesses while I draw it out here. So why do leaves fall? So we have our tree. We're going to go with a tree. Perennials do it and other plants do it, but I think we all recognize the tree. So there we go. So we all understand what's happening there. The sunlight's hitting it. The chlorophyll, the green in the cell, is absorbing that and converting it into energy through photosynthesis. Now we're in what's called the northern hemisphere. So as our summer ends and we start getting into autumn or fall, we're getting less light. The less light hitting that tree, well, now it's not getting the energy to produce as much chlorophyll, which is where the photosynthesis happens. As that starts waning down, the leaves start turning color. And we start seeing all the reds and the oranges, and if you're in Calgary, the yellow and some more yellow. But now it's starting to change color. And eventually it gets to the nothing left. The leaf has no energy left. And all we've got are the branches. Now at the same time that's happening, our roots down here growing in the ground, as that's changing, we also know it's getting colder and they start freezing. So there's no transfer happening anymore. That starts slowing down. And eventually this is what we have in the winter. A bunch of wood growing on an ice cube, basically. So there's nothing happening, there's no leaves, so there's no energy going down, the roots are frozen, so they can't uptake any water, they can't uptake any minerals, and everything is just sitting like that until spring. Then it starts warming up, and those roots feel the ground getting warmer, and there's energy. Now the sugars and the waters and the minerals are going again, and what do you start seeing? You start seeing those little leaves coming out. And they're nice and green. And that sun, as the days are getting longer and warmer and the light's hitting, the tree starts to create the chlorophyll. The chlorophyll starts creating energy and the cycle begins anew. So if anybody asks you why leaves fall off of trees, it's not the cold, that is part of it, but the primary reason is the amount of light and what's happening in the leaf. So that is giving us a bit of a coverage on what leaves do on a plant. Tomorrow we're going to look at seeds, and tomorrow I'm excited because we're going to look at seeds and we're going to talk about how to plant seeds. I'm going to show you some that I've done, and we're going to have some projects for the next week. Remember, you have any questions, you guys are sending us tons of questions. We're loving it. We're absolutely loving it. We can't wait to answer them all on Friday. Hawaiian Shirt Friday, can't say enough about that. I'd like to see you all in your Hawaiian shirts. I'll be rocking mine. So you guys keep it going. Send the questions in. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful Wednesday. Bye, everyone.